That's just so I don't forget later on.
Talking about the high ticket sales space, I see so many individuals out there that, hey, getting on a good offer this, good offer that, what are the best offers? And it's funny, there's some people, and I have actually had this conversation with Scott, who I'm doing business consulting with right now. Him and I, consult with businesses, help them grow. And our focus is brick and mortar businesses, or maybe an online coach, but really the kind of brick and mortar aspect. And him and I were having a discussion that if I look at like my younger brother, corporate sales for a very large company, Jackson Physicians, does very well for himself. My older brother, the software engineer manager, so he's in the corporate world. My dad's been in the corporate world. One of my good friends who actually was an angel investor into my first brick and mortar business, and he's done very, very, very well for himself as well. That he, basically builds buildings, that sort of thing. His goal next year is to like donate a church. So you're talking like $25 million donation. So, talking with all of them, a lot of them don't understand the online space. And a lot of these online sales individuals, they're really professional, that their focus is only on online sales, when there's a whole nother crazy world out there that they could be making way more money or the same money with minimal work as well, right? Like the corporate 9 to 5 job thing was, kind of flushed down the toilet. That was a big marketing thing for be a DM setter and work 2 hours a day and, make $10,000 a month from any beach in the world, or, develop your skills as a high ticket sales professional, take 2 calls a day, and make $10,000 a week type of deal. That, yes, that can be done, but the amount of offers out there to actually allow that to happen is very small. To if you look at the corporate world, I mean, there's tons of businesses out there. Solar became the huge thing because it's just a big thing going on in the country right now, but that's going to die off as well. So a lot of people, if you're owning a coaching business, like, is that really a tangible business you can step away? It's going to be a wealth asset you can sell. In a lot of terms, most of those online businesses are not. So really, it's just, is cash coming in? It's not a business you can step away from, and it's generating things on its own. And so it's kind of interesting. You kind of brought up, the individual you're working for, he's in corporate as well. So there's a lot of moving parts there, and I think developing the sales skills to go anywhere. I mean, that's really the most important thing. And you and I've had a lot of discussions around, do we want to do sales our whole life? Not necessarily. There's a lot of other goals in our life, but really it is an amazing skill to learn, and it can be a bridge to kind of be going through.
Yeah. And I think with the position I'm at, I'm being exposed to all of this. So the recruiting agency that I'm working at, they have corporate guys coming in because they want one thing, which is time. We have, remote salespeople coming in because, they want to make money. But it's like, the trade-off with time and money, plus thinking about longevity. Sometimes even me thinking about, corporate sales and remote sales, I'm leaning more towards corporate, right? Just the longevity with being able to be with a company for 10 years or 5 years, knowing the company been there for 30 years before me. I had one guy who, has started, first of all, his marketing agency, tried to replace his 17,000 a month, B2B corporate sales job with a remote gig. That didn't work out. Also, he had the freedom, but his income divided by 5, which wasn't sustainable. And it's crazy going from 17 to maybe 3.
Yeah. And that's, I think everybody has to really take a look at, what do I want my life to look like? Right. I mean, that really is the goal, but I think there's a lot of people out there missing the boat of how many sales opportunities are actually out there when their focus is just on the remote sales space. And when you brought up longevity, why do you feel like going into the corporate is like a longevity play? I have my thoughts, and I'll say that, but why do you kind of feel that way?
Like the remote sales is kind of new. I look at business owners itself, like the majority of the online business owners, like haven't been in business long. they're just people like me, 21-year-olds starting in an agency, a coaching business because we've seen someone else do it. In the corporate space, at least what I'm exposed to is like 50, 60-year-olds who's been running businesses for 40 years. And it's the same old, the growth expansion, they have all the resources now. Everything is going great, everything is lined up. They have a plan for you. Obviously, it might take longer. I'm making more money in remote sales closing deals now than I would in my first 2 years in the corporate role.
Right.
But I'm thinking, with the time that I'm switching offers, finding new business owners, networking, repositioning myself, marketing crashing down, all of that time is like wasted.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't matter how many times you can switch an offer, because my network is, I'm in a position where my network is abundant. Like I feel it's abundant. I can, get off an offer, tomorrow, get an offer the next day, and do that 10 times over. But that still doesn't resort to the amount of onboarding time, for example, wasted time on, I don't know, like an offer that wouldn't, work out to begin with. Or like there's just so many factors that counts into it that can make a company that's been around for 2 years or 3 years or even 5 years like fall through the cracks.
Yep.
Compared to a company that has 250 or 1,000 employees already.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point with that, like with the online space, because it's so much like the wild west, and it's been that way for a while. And truthfully, I see a lot of changes coming down the pipeline over the next couple of years that I think some of the top tier ones are going to be cannibalized, they're going to be wiped out. So you're not going to have some of the big names, and we could all, throw out about a bunch of big names that have made 20 million to 100 million in the last 3 to 5 years. I think a lot of them, if they don't pivot, they're going to be really eaten up by smaller players. But I think at the same time, there's going to be a lot of those smaller mid-tier players that are going to be wiped off, and they're going to have to go back to something else because, like you said, they're just starting a business. And we see it all the time. We talk about it like, oh, we hopped on this offer, we thought it was really good, and then it was really bad on the back end for whatever reason. It could have been the lead generation wasn't quite right, so it wasn't sustainable. Maybe the fulfillment was garbage because they were a brand new business, and they got to that point where fulfillment ended up breaking because they don't have systems in place to actually continue to grow and bring on more people, and the push just to make more money, and it really becomes a cash grab. And at any moment that, the term house of cards, is kind of a bad way of saying it, but truly is. Some of these businesses are making $100,000 to $200,000 a month, but they're a house of cards and they could collapse at any moment. Right. And I also know I've got some really good friends. I had one that was on an offer for like 7 years, made really, really, really good money. And all of a sudden the owner was like, I'm going through some health issues and I'm just shutting up the business. Where are you left at that point? Right. And so, you bringing up, the corporate world and people that have been in the game for 40, 50, 60 years. Like when I was switching offers 3-4 months ago, I had 2 people reach out to me. One of them, he's actually starting his 7th business. The last one he sold for like 70 million. He started and launched all these businesses, right? And, he's at the age of 40. That's a lot of success, a lot of knowledge. But that's also somebody with a track record of very good success. And also he's brought other people along each step of the way. So it might not be technically a corporation that's been on the planet for 100 years, but you bring up a really strong, abundant network. Do you have a network of people that, hey, this business I'm selling it, but I want you to come with my next one, to where you're still part of that. The other gentleman I partnered with, who I kind of mentioned earlier, his name ironically is Scott as well. He started his business, grew it to a nationwide $20 million a year company, sold it, retired, didn't do anything for like 10 years, and then started, kind of coach people randomly, gave people pointers. But now, him and we coach business owners, and some of the business owners we do online. That's really important. But some of our, majority of our individuals that we try to target are brick and mortar, because those are businesses that we can build and have them sustain long term. right? Like that's a different thing and a different kind of animal when you look at the longevity play. You know, do you want a lot of people move into the remote space going, hey, 4 or 5 hours a day, I take calls back to back to back from noon to 5. I get to sleep in, go to the beach, do my thing, work from noon to 5, make some money. Then I got the night to myself. This is awesome, blah, 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 blah. Until all of a sudden there are no more offers like that. Or there are so many people in the space, and you know as well as I do how many people are out there. You know, it's one of the reasons why I hired Bill Walsh and jumped into the objection box. You know how many people are out there training to get better and better and better and better. Well, if there's 2,000 jobs out there right now that are really good, and there's only 1,000 really good reps, those 1,000 reps have play to move around with. What happens if those reps increase and then over the next year and also offers shrink? All of a sudden, doesn't matter how good you are, if you're stuck in this space, you might be left in the dark at the same time.
Yep. I think the offers are already shrinking, right? I think that number is already getting smaller, because if we look around, it's the same old, same old. And another pointer that a lot of people don't even notice. If you look at the companies who are servicing sales teams, you know, not to call anyone out, but I've looked around, right? Because I'm also in that market.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, see what my competitors are doing or what other counterparts are doing. And they're all showcasing the same testimonial of the same company. So that gets you wondering, like, who actually helped these guys to get to 8 figures? Because everyone is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So if everyone is saying the same thing, who are servicing sales teams, then, and they're still also, you know, building their recruiting as a part of it, you know, they're pushing out the same offers too from different corporations that you thought were different, but it's the same one.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point there. Like if we take, again, a big name, an XYZ company, right? And they're staffing all these offers with all these individuals. Well, you and I also have seen over the past couple of years, you have 10 people from that company all leave and start their own business doing the exact same thing. Now you've got 11 businesses out there all competing to do the exact same thing with the same amount of offers. And that's where, like I said, I see a big cannibalism going to happen here shortly, because a lot of people are building up their skills enough. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, why should I work for you? I'm going to go work for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to build my own thing, but hey, I saw you build it up to $1 million a month. I can do that too, not realizing how hard that actually is, the systems, the processes to do that. And then you have people that hire that individual and it fails. Now they think everybody else is garbage as well. You know, it kind of goes with, you know, a few years back, all agencies running, hey, we book you 100 leads every single month. If anybody sees that ad now, they're never going to hire that individual, right? Then it became, hey, book qualified leads that are ready, that know you and ready to buy your stuff. Again, you see that, it's like, okay, I've seen this, like it's the same thing regurgitated. And that's what I kind of see. Everything's regurgitated, you know, in reality, nothing's new, right? Like if we talk about personal development, you know, which you're big into, nothing's new. You're not inventing anything new to that. Fitness, there's nothing new. Now technology is evolving really fast, you know, and I actually saw an ad earlier today that it was actually the very first thing in marketing I've seen new in 2 years, since many, you know, basically bots came out to message your stuff, you know, and those bots, what did they do? They killed and destroyed like DM messaging for a long time, because you're getting all these horrible things. So having technology just running your stuff isn't a very successful model there. But this one kind of came out where how to kind of double your conversions by, even if someone doesn't enter in their information, you can still gather their information if they're watching certain parts of your funnel, which that's a new technology. That's a game changer. That's going to help out tremendously, right? Like if you can double your contacts, your leads, your data of an individual without them entering it, that can be a potential game changer in the industry. But besides some of that, there isn't a whole lot out there. And so a lot of people have used the same thing over and over and over again, and it's becoming stale.
Yeah.
Since COVID, as an example, where everyone sat at home, did nothing, a bunch of people moved online. They've all seen all of this stuff. Now it's all kind of okay, wish-washy. And that makes it
Yeah.
a very tough place to be in for the
Yeah.
business owner and a sales professional.
For everyone, not like people before being a sales rep as well, because they're being exposed to all the get rich quick scheme marketing as well, and being kind of like tricked inside of their mind. I know their self-awareness is becoming a little bit cloudy, but that's like an interesting pointer as well. If we go back to maybe COVID and we take instead of digital marketing agencies, we take high ticket, right?
Yeah.
Because there's probably been a time where remote closing were remote closing before anyone knew what it was, right?
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden, all the marketers started to breed, and now we have this message of, hey, let's make $4,000 per month, typing phone sorry messages 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
right? There must have been a time where people were remote closing or remote setting or doing remote sales before COVID happened, before this whole existed. Like, do you know anything of that evolution?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's actually a guy I'm, in my network, I'm friends with on Facebook. We've been, connected for several years. His name's Brad, and he actually started doing a remote closing like 20 years ago.
20 years ago, like 2003.
Yeah, yeah, like early
Oh,
2000. So, he was one of the few that were able to do that. But if you think about remote closing, again, nothing's really new, right? So,
yeah,
how many sales professionals in the past were closing deals over the phone?
probably
A ton, right?
a
Like
ton. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that's
So
90% of the population.
So if I'm calling somebody that's a mile away, is that really any different than me calling you on the other side of the world?
No.
No. So remote closing technically has always been something. It's just now with technology, because of things like Zoom, I can just fold up my laptop and I can go anywhere in the world, connect to Wi-Fi, and have that call.
Yeah,
Right? Cell phones allowed that. When they first came out, where someone could be in New York selling to somebody in LA or to selling somebody in China or whatever it may be. So remote closing's always been there, right? So it's just, again, a kind of a marketing term. So it's never going to go away. It's just
yeah,
evolved to where now it's Zoom. But you kind of brought up the high ticket space. When I jumped in the high ticket space, that was like 6 years ago. And first launching that, so I used to help people reverse rheumatoid arthritis naturally. That was an 8K offer, and nobody knew what Zoom was. So everything was done over the phone. Like, I would give people an option, like, you want me to call you or have you join me live on Zoom? What's Zoom? Well, I'm not going to go through 10 minutes to have you go through the tech, things of that nature. So you bring up an interesting point, because COVID, everybody got used to Zoom because everyone had to work remotely from home,
yeah,
right? And it wasn't on phones, conference calls that way. All of a sudden now everyone's talking through video. So the remote closing position didn't change, the tech changed.
yeah,
So it'll never go away. But the high ticket space, to kind of your point, I see that making a big change, because I mean, one of the biggest issues I've always had a problem with in the high ticket space, number one, is fulfillment. Now, you and I both know, okay, if I'm going to use fitness example, if I have 10 clients come in to my brick and mortar business, they all want to lose 20 pounds. Even if I give each one of them the same information, they come and do the same workouts, I tell them to do exactly all the same thing. Out of those, if we just say 10 people, how many are actually going to lose that 20 pounds in the next 3 months?
probably four, like a wild guess, like
Yeah,
average. Yeah,
100%, 30 to 40. So when you look at these companies advertising testimonials, for every one, they probably have 4 people that failed. Why'd that person fail? Was it the business owner's fault in fulfillment, which that is the case with some offers? It's not set up for the person coming in, or was it is there a lot of, I guess, responsibility put on the person that got into the program? If I use out of those 10, like you said, let's just say, 6 don't get the result. I gave them the right information. They came in and worked out when they were supposed to, did the exact same workout as everybody else. But the moment they left, they stopped across the street and got 2 Big Macs, a large fry, and a Coke, where somebody else had a salad, right? So that was a difference. That was their actions outside of the program that caused the issues. And I think a lot of people never really take some of those things in consideration with business success. You know, you brought up something interesting too of some people, you know, their ads are like, oh, I've worked with so-and-so and got so-and-so result, right? How many people, oh, I've done ads for Tony Robbins and we made $1 million in 60 days. Well, your ads didn't do that. Tony Robbins, 20 years of business growth did that, right?
Yeah, the branding itself.
Correct. We could take anybody that went and build an agency course and knows how to do it. Anybody could have done that. It was, you know, and speaking of like importance of your network and having abundance in your network, that person was able to get in front of Tony Robbins. You and I probably can't just call up Tony, hey, I want to run your ads, right? So I can use it as a testimonial because I'll be successful. Somebody else will be able to get that. And so testimonials are always one of those interesting things that are really important for people to understand. Hey, you truly can do this. But I think also that's an important part of front-end marketing, and, you know, important part of the sales individual up front of, hey, is this person actually qualified to get a result? Knowing that, hey, there's a chance that they're going to fail, but are they a good fit? And will they put that commitment on themselves to do it? You know, I'm going to use, you know, my offer as an example with the rheumatoid arthritis, there's a lot of change that has to happen to make that reverse. And the change comes down, are you going to change what you're doing every day? Are you going to change the way that you're living every day? You're going to take the ownership in doing the things that need to do and remove the things that are holding you back. That's hard for some people, you know, and some of the people that I talk to, I'm like, you're not a good fit because I know you're not going to make those changes. Now, I wasn't blunt with that, but just things, you know, questions me asking, things that they told me, it's not a good fit. So, you know, I had to have to tell them that. Now, the same thing, like if I use like Bill Walsh as an example, you join the objection box and there's training every single day. If you're not showing up for the training, are you actually going to get better at sales? Are you going to get better at objection handling? Are you going to become elite? No, the elite is the action portion, right? And that's the tough thing about marketing sometimes. That's a tough thing about being a sales professional or a business owner. That's also the tough part of being a customer. That fear of like, well, geez, am I going to actually put in the time to do this? You know, one of the things when you and I talk, you know, when we had this meet up and kind of coach each other, kind of talking about that way of developing yourself. I mean, the numbers show, I mean, if you take like a skill, so if we use sales as an example, and we spend 20 minutes every single day developing that skill, within 1 year, you're gonna become one of the 1%. It sounds super easy, but how many people actually spend that 20 minutes every single day to do that? You know, that was one thing with my health career. And then as I moved into business, I mean, I would spend 2-3 hours every single day reading articles. You know, back in the day, you didn't have YouTube, so you had to read stuff, right?
You guys had to go to the library.
Yeah, and you have to, you know, and granted, you know, we had, you know, Google was there and stuff like that, but there were certain people I'd follow, and I made sure that I was reading 2, 3, 4 articles every single day and learning those pieces to develop that. That's how I got to the point I did there. Same thing with business over the years, and I continue to read with that to continue growing that, because again, a lot of the stuff is, I mean, it's simple math, it's simple data points, but knowing how to read those data points, look at the math, what's it actually telling you, how to break each one down. You know, I saw a post actually from, you know, Matt Ryder the other day, and, you know, he was talking about one of their accounts came in and said, hey, we've got a 49% no-show rate. Well, he's like, well, hey, let's pull up the CRM, let's really look at that, and broke that down and realized, hey, no, there were like just easy numbers. 20% of those that no-showed actually were canceled by the sales professional. Another 25 were canceled by the actual person that booked the call. And so actually the no-show rate was way smaller than what they thought. right? So figure out why did people cancel or whatnot, or what happened with that situation. You can reschedule those type of scenarios, and you can solve problems really fast that way. And most people have no idea how to read data points like that. It's kind of the same thing with your ads. Hey, you've got this problem. Well, what's causing the problem? And most people focus on the wrong thing, right? Or the bigger problem is they focus on the wrong thing. They try 5 different things to fix it, and they actually don't know if what they're trying is going to fix it. If they do see a fix, what actually worked. There's so many kind of pieces that kind of go around with kind of that scenario. And so, I mean, that's the hard thing about like the remote sales space. If you're just focusing on, hey, an online offer, that's it. It can be really tough, and realizing, hey, remote sales is just sales. You're in just a high ticket space, right? So you're selling an online product rather than working for a corporation, kind of bring it back kind of full circle with that.
Yeah, it's that's kind of like the difficult thing, right? Because I mean, it's when it comes to people's development, right? Like people see remote closing as is, but they never really ask why whenever they go through a training, right? I've been starting to ask why I'm going through like marketing programs, like why am I learning this?
Yep.
All right, so they teach me about psychology. Why? Because of the principles. Well, why
Yep.
is the principles important? Because they want to teach me how to think when I come across this.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's the thing with sales. If we focus more on, and this goes into your point, why we're doing things and how to think when we are stumbling across, for example, an objection, or how to view that perspective, what story we tell ourselves. And it might be a different one to what the story actually is from the prospect side. And
Yeah.
all of these core lining principles, the corporate space will be a home for us.
Yep.
But if we're just focusing on remote closing, one call closes, and that's all sales is for us, one call closes.
Yeah.
It's not gonna cut ties into corporate to when all of this falls down. We don't know where this will go. It's so new for us.
Correct.
Very new. 6 years
Yeah.
is very, very new.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more. And you go back to when this kind of really, you can start start with click funnels and building a funnel, right? People moving online, and then, hey, high-end products, and that move in there, and everything evolves and changes as you kind of brought up. But success just in general, it is frameworks, it's a process, and that those success principles have always been there all through time.
Yep.
Right? We look at fitness. To get to a certain point in fitness, it doesn't matter what modality you're using, dumbbells, a bar, a kettlebell, your body weight, whatever. The principles to hit your goals are the same.
Yep.
You do principles. Same thing with business success. Same thing with sales, right? And if you look at, being in JD Daly's UCM, right? Some people are like, oh my gosh, Scott, when I kind of joined that community and first got in, and him and Hunter are amazing. Some people are like, oh, you've been in sales longer than JD. You must be. Wait, no, JD's got more experience than I do in this space because he's done way more offers. He's been doing this. Granted, there might be certain skills I might be better at than he is. But now you're trying to compare apples to oranges, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with like Bill Walsh, like joining the objection box. He started in fitness like I did. Hey, I've done objections. I can close deals. But there's always something you can learn from somebody else, and you bring up, hey, why am I trying to learn this marketing thing? We were talking just earlier before we kind of started this, of going through some tech issues right now. Do I want to take a whole course on how to, maximize Go High Level and spend hours to learn how to do that when in 2 years Go High Level might be gone? Or in 3 months from now, they make an update and blah, blah, blah. Or would I rather, have somebody, hire somebody to actually be there to fix the problems when they arise? It depends where you're at, and depends on what your goals are, and that's a big thing. And I think a lot of people are jumping on calls, jumping into business, purchasing programs, hiring people that, or even bringing on new clients of people that you're bringing on a wrong person. I mean, it's kind of like putting a round peg through a square, right? Like it doesn't work, and it's just in. I don't think some people are self-aware enough, and I think you're seeing a lot more of that as you bring up. And I think that's one thing that's kind of changing the game right now with the online space. A lot of people have failed a lot, and I think they're a lot more self-aware and not just, hey, new shiny object. Oh, new solution to my problem. No, they're really all the same, but which one's going to fit you the best, and vice versa.
Yeah, and that's mostly the mindset for like seasoned people, like people who've been here for at least a couple of months. But if we look at, I don't know when we spoke about this, but we spoke about, the new marketing, or well, it's not really new, right? It's old marketing that's been repackaged. And now it's the flood of people coming in. Like JD mentioned on his group, the new flood of people of DM setters make
Yeah.
4,000 per month in 2 hours a day, typing messages on your phone.
Yeah.
It's like the remote closing that's always existed is now a BizSolve, right? It is marketed as, 10K is easy to learn. 10K is easy to earn. All you need is to, be able to have a phone and make some calls. That's all you need. Do you think there is a way to, well, we're not gonna be able to really cure marketing because it's always gonna be there, but prevent more people from kind of going down those rabbit holes where it's like very unrealistic expectations, especially us being here. And we know this is like
That's
one
a
of
good
those
question.
things.
And it's a really good question, and it's a very philosophical one, really, for the answer, because you kind of brought up, hey, marketing's always going to be there. Why is marketing always going to be there for it? Because there's always going to be someone to sell that to, right? So they're always going to make a way to make money. But I think a lot of people, they don't do their research first, right? So, hey, I have a 9 to 5 job. I see an ad to do this. That sounds exciting. I've never heard of this before. A lot of people don't do their research. They just click that ad. They don't realize that ad they just clicked was, if there's 10 people to hire, they're not even on that list of people to hire to get into there, right? And so you have a large population going into an environment like that. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've seen a lot of people that tried to start a sales agency, sales recruitment, DM agency, and within 6 months, they took a bunch of people's money and then they closed down because they couldn't support, right? And that's the problem in the industry. So a lot of people, when they jump in, they're not doing proper research. And it's, and it's hard being on a sales call sometimes with people that aren't doing research, which has always been nice with a lot of offers I've been on. Normally I'm the third type of company they're looking out to, right? And they've been burned in the past. Now that's good because they're educated and things of that nature. But the bad part of that situation is now they have 2 failures underneath their belt. There's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of fear. Like, hey, how can I invest $20,000 or $30,000 again when in the past year and a half I've already invested $50,000? There's so much fear and tension there and doubt. You have to be able to overcome that and be really good with doing that. You also have to be on a good enough offer, knowing that you're making the right decision for that person. If you were coming in saying, hey, Scott, Steve, Marcus, and I, we just launched this business together. Boom, this is our plan. We want to start blah, 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 blah. And I know that my solution isn't for you. Going, David, hey, in reality, if you hired us, you're going to spend $20,000 or $30,000 up front. Within the next 90 days, as we're launching this, do you have an extra $5,000-$6,000 to be running ads, having being on retainer, so we can grow this and potentially not make money for the first 30 to 40 days? Or is that going to bankrupt you?
Yep.
Right. And with you guys, it would probably bankrupt you. And I would go, dude, I'm not going to have you live underneath a bridge because of this. I know that we're a really good solution and we could, but right now, with where your business is, you're not ready to go. And so I use that as an example to help answer the question of kind of like the difference between a white belt and a black belt. What's the difference? Do you know?
Skill set.
Yeah. And how did that skill set happen?
Time.
Yeah. And they just getting 1% over every day, right? You didn't learn new kicks, you didn't learn new punches, or you didn't new grappling moves, you didn't, right? You got better by maximizing your movement by 1% every single day, right? And that's kind of the same thing with where you're at business. Where are you kind of in that business? Does it make sense to do that? And so, you know, the importance of just that continued growth. And so that's the philosophical aspect of, do I see a change in what could solve the problem? I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Because
It's a tough stone to turn, right? Because as you were speaking, I was thinking back to my first marketing offer. And
yeah,
on that offer, there was so many people, because we were targeting SMEs. So there
yeah,
were people that were coming in with not really a business, but they had a product in mind.
yeah,
And that a product in mind is not a product, it's just an idea,
yeah,
right? So there was a lot of people who tried to run a business with just an idea, right?
yeah,
No real product that they have created or a service that they've actually created. Just the idea of, hey, I want to do this. So they've been burned so many times.
yeah.
And that was like the main objection. Well, it wasn't really a main objection, but it was the main problem out of the people that we spoke to,
Yeah.
like the being burned. And it's very similar to this, right?
Correct.
There will be very difficult to get rid of all the agencies who guarantee 25 appointments per month, guaranteed,
Correct.
or you don't pay.
Yeah. And, you know, some of that, again, looking at just the human nature side of things, right? I mean, for a long time, I'm sure you've had people tell you, oh, no, that's a scam. It didn't work.
Yep.
Right. And you can talk again about that, anything like, oh, you can't lose 20 pounds in 60 days. That's a scam. It doesn't work. Why does a person think that way? Because they tried something and it failed. So they quit. Right. And that's the importance of having like a growth mindset too, you know, with being in the online space. And you need that too in corporate America too, having that growth mindset of, hey, if I don't win today, how do I win tomorrow? Or what did I learn today? You know, one of my big things is, hey, I never lose. I either win or I learn. Right. In every situation. So if the situation doesn't have an outcome that I want, I don't consider that as a loss. I consider that as, okay, I didn't get A result, but I got B result. So what can I learn from B result, even though B result wasn't what I was looking for? Right. You kind of go back to like the invention of the light bulb. Right. How did you continue to fail 9,999 times? Well, no, I just tried 9,999 ways. It didn't work. And then I figured out how to actually make that work. And a lot of people, the moment there's any adversity, they fail.
Ooh, you just brought up a really important point. And that is what we have learned in JD's class, which is decision making, right? A lot
Yep.
of people see decisions as, hey, you either succeed or you're failed. But if you switch the entire mindset to like a sliding scale, instead of, hey, you do A or B, it's this sliding scale of 10%, 20%, 30%, 100%. If 100% doesn't work, well, it doesn't mean that we fail, but we can do the 90%, right?
Yep.
Do the second best option, third best option, fourth best option. It might not be the 100% where we work out an hour the most intensively. Maybe we do 30 minutes. Maybe
Yep.
we've had a bad day. Well, let's do 30 minutes for the very least. It's the third
Correct.
best option, but it doesn't count as a fail.
Correct. And that's where learning, right? And again, that's, if we look at the process to success, it's a proven formula. And that proven formula is not a straight line that starts here and just goes straight up. It's a line that goes up and then there's right, and then skyrockets. So that's the difference. But the biggest problem is, you know, when people move in this space, and that's where I think I don't know if there's a way to solve the problem, because you're always going to have people to be able to market to bring people up to this point. There will always be people that will buy in this point. All right. That's why, hey, there's a need in the marketplace. People are buying. So people will open that. The problem is, majority of those people, the moment that they hit here, they just quit and give up and go back to their 9 to 5, or they close up shop and go back. You know, well, my online business isn't going to work. It's all a sham. I'm going to go back and just do. Where the ones that are successful are like, no, I see people that are being successful, so I know that it's possible. So how can I learn from this situation I'm in right now? To your point and JD's point of what did I learn? I didn't get the 100%, but I did get this. In some of the courses, programs I've gone through, I was looking for a outcome. I never came close to it. But going through that program and process also taught me a lot more than actually what I was actually looking for. So that's another mindset shift of way of looking at things. My goal was A. I didn't get that. That was B. But we oftentimes associate that B with something lower, where lots of times that B was actually a better result than if I would have hit A. So I don't even like using a percentage, even though it's a really good thing to use that as well. Hey, the result I got was actually better than the result I was looking at. So why do I look at that as a better result when other people look at it as a failure?
Yep.
Because, one of my favorite things is actually a Denzel Washington motivational kind of speech. And he talks about failing forward, right? That's how we actually get better. We just fail forward. You constantly move forward. You're constantly going to fail. But majority of people, when they think failure, you're taught at such a young age, all the way through school, fail means you're garbage, right? And so subconsciously, and just through that whole cultural aspect of going through that your whole life, that failure is a bad thing. It's programmed us to hit failure and stop immediately, rather than hitting failure and going forward faster.
Yep.
You know as well as I do, the faster you fail, the faster you move forward, the more results you're going to get.
Yep.
But again, the term result means success, where in reality, result means it gave you evidence of something. So what can I use that evidence for, and how does it benefit me?
That mindset and that evidence, a lot of us in sales have that mindset because of starting out in, for example, door to door or outbound dialing. For example, in outbound dialing that I was doing, I never did door to door, but that was the same thing. If someone told me fuck you or fuck off or whatever, I'm 3 fuck offs away from a booking, for example, right? So the initial, hey, screw you, isn't a failure. Hey, I'm closer now.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm closer now.
Yeah.
Let's keep going, because now I'm 3 from this one yes that I want.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us in sales have that mindset.
Yeah, and that's where sometimes you have to like zoom out, right? Like I've been it myself. I'm sure you have. I know other sales professionals have, that you have like 12 calls in a row, and all of them you don't purchase. So all of a sudden you're emotionally freaking out. You're thinking you're garbage. What am I doing wrong? I need to fix a bunch of stuff. But if you would just step back and take a look at it, and to your point, hey, if I have 3 no's, it gets me 1-1, right? Mathematically, right? But that doesn't mean every 4th door is a yes. You could go 12 doors before you get a yes, another 12 doors before you get a yes. So that's 25 doors, 2. So technically it's 1 out of 12. But then all of a sudden, 3 out of the next 4 doors, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden the math adds back out to that, 3-1. And that's the big problem that a lot of people don't see. They never zoom out and take a look at it. And, kind of, again, tying this back in with you talking about, hey, a bunch of new DM setters, like that marketing's coming up, right? It's kind of funny how the past 6-12 months, we've seen all of these sales trainers pop up out of the blue. Hey, I'm going to get you to 10, 20K a month, blah, 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 blah. Now it's switching. It's no different than like advertising before. Hey, 100 book calls. Okay, nobody cares. 100 book quality calls or 20 book quality calls. People care about that now, right? And forget about this. Now moving to remote sales, boom, boom, boom. Oh, wait, that's way harder. Hey, DM setting, boom, boom, boom. So a whole different group of people, because some people don't want to do sales calls. They're scared of it. But DM setting, and I just interviewed Erica Copina, who's one of the best DM setters out there, just the other week, right? And she worked her way from DM to actually closing. Once she started hitting closing, she's like, dude, I hate this. I don't want to be any part of it. And so I think the DM setting thing too is where some people are scared to be in sales. The DM setting sounds easier, but the same potential, which again, each person's abilities to continue moving forward, to continue to learn, to get better and stick with it is really where that potential is actually reached. Again, that's a success principle. So we are going to see a large group of people coming in. I think a lot of them will probably start off as a part-time job, right? Because they're being told, hey, 2 hours a day. Oh, cool. Well, I work from 9 to 5. So I'll DM set for an hour during lunch and I'll DM set an hour after work. And then really, or, sadly, a lot of people could probably just do it during their 9 to 5 job and not miss a beat in productivity there. So try to kind of double up the hours, but they're going to get kicked in the teeth pretty quick and realize, this isn't really worth it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I fear the most when I see the time messages on your phone 1-2 hours a day, because some people actually think that is like real average data, right? And what they do is, all right, so I can make 15,000 if I quit my 9 to 5 and DM set for 6 hours a day, if the math adds up.
Yep.
And if they do that and they're promised that opportunity, and who knows what the responsibilities are, right? Family,
Right.
kids, car, whatever, and they quit for an OTE that isn't accurate. Most of the OTs out there in the industry currently aren't accurate.
Yeah. 100%, and that goes back to the very beginning of our conversation too, talking corporate and longevity, right? Those companies have been around forever. There's a lot of trust and confidence that company is going to be around for 10 years. And that's a big problem with fulfillment. And, I think you and I should set up a call to just talk about that piece of the puzzle, because it really goes with that, that so many of these online offers, unlike a corporation, they're kind of just in starting mode. Right. And so the numbers there aren't as solid. So the trust, the confidence isn't quite there. And it's one thing I've talked to a few different sales reps over the past month on, hey, just because you hop on an offer that might not be pulling in $200,000 a month, could they get there? Because maybe if you come in and work with them part-time and you work with them as they grow, then you're doing that long-term, not being so, well, you're not making $200,000 a month, I'm not going to work with you. I'm better than that type of deal.
That's a sensitive point. That's what I hate with remote sales. And I don't mean to call anyone out, but the industry is so short-sighted. It's like, if you don't have the current resources, then I'm out, right?
Yeah.
If you have the resources and you dip just a little bit to get back up again, because it's always like this, it's like the stock market, I'm out, right? It's like people are, I know, I don't know what the mindset is. I can't put my tongue on it. It's so weird for me.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that we have a long conversation with that. And just so you're aware, so I've got another appointment coming up. I can't believe we went through 55 minutes already.
Jesus
It's like
Christ.
always, David, that you and I have just super long conversations are really amazing. But I try to always give people the benefit of the doubt. I always look at people as the best of what intentions and the best of everything, right? Like that's just the way I go through life. And when I look at some of the people that post about stuff like what you kind of just brought up, or turn down jobs, or for whatever reason it may be, oh, they're not making enough, or I'm not going to take that job because they're making me show up for team meetings a couple times a week, or whatever excuse it is, right? Like I look at the best intentions there lots of times, and sometimes I do, just I might throw a comment out like, why do you view it that way? Or, hey, look at it from the other person's point of view, right? That's another thing I've always been blessed with. One of God's gifts that he gave me was I can really look at someone else's point of view very, very quickly, which has always helped me as a coach, which always helped me with building a business, always helped with sales calls. I can do that pretty quick. And the problem is if I assume something, right? Like if I think, hey, I put myself in your situation, and all of a sudden I assume like I know exactly. No, but if I can put myself in your situation, I can ask you questions, then all of a sudden I really know really where things are. So that's what I try to do with a lot of those individuals and some of the people. It's marketing. Not always. I know there's some people that they're very through that, but marketing, and some people start drinking the Kool-Aid, right? So, and my here's an example. Let's say I see you start posting about, hey, I'm not going to take an offer unless it fits all this criteria because it's not worth my time and they're garbage. And I see a bunch of people liking and commenting on your post, and I see that for several different months. I'm like, oh, David's getting all these comments and likes, and people are noticing him and says how great he is, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
And what's one of the best ways to market? Being polarizing, right? It's to do something that elicits a response emotionally. And you have some people that will jump on your back like, oh yeah, 100%, blah, blah, blah. And if you get 10 people, they're all jumping on your back in the comments. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I agree with you. Well, I'm not going to comment in there and be like, dude, you're completely wrong, unless I'm really confident with my position. So majority of the negative feedback never shows up.
Yep.
So now you've got a bunch of people, a small group, like let's say 1% of the individuals out there, they're all rah-rahing each other. But from some of others' outside perception is, oh my gosh, everybody loves this person. When in real reality, 99 other percent are looking down at that situation going, dude, you're not going to have a job in like 6 months. Right. Like you're gonna run into some real struggles if you keep that mindset. But you and I both know that, you know, the cliche term, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Right. You also can't shift someone's perception unless they're open to having that perception shifted. Right. I could try to tell you a bunch of different things and hold you down and say, no, David, believe this. Right. It's not going to make you change anything. Right. You know, I know one of our conversations we had a month or so ago, you know, I kind of talked about my belief in Jesus Christ. Right. Did I hold you down and grab the Bible and said, you must believe this now? No, I can't do anything about that. Right. That's something you have to decide for yourself. And that's everybody's perception in every sort of situation. And so no matter if I see someone posting about some of those negative things that I perceive as negative, well, if I go back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and put myself in their shoes at that age, dude, I might have been feeling the same way. Right. But my years and my experience have led me to a different conclusion. Also, a lot of the sales reps out there, there's the blinders are on because they're only thinking about themselves, not the business owner, the job, the longevity, all these type of pieces. Which again, if you tie that back to corporations, if you walk into a corporate setting, you can't walk in with that type of demand setting, right?
To work.
And so it's very weird how a lot of the sales reps, and you know, JD talks about it, you know, Inc. You know, it's your own business, and that's kind of a branding. And you know, I've had some of that discussion with people on my podcast, and you and I've kind of discussed that as well. That branding is really important, and that's a really scary thing. So you're branding yourself as someone that's not going to come in and be a team player.
Yep.
That's how I view it as a business owner. You can be the best closer in the world. I now view you as a non-team player. First impressions are always the toughest things to break, right? So those individuals, are they putting up unnecessary struggles and walls in front of them that they're going to have to break down, and it'll take a long time to break that down, right? Or if a business owner is like, dude, I'm not following that person anymore, they're off my radar. Well, dude, now you're not in their network. You missed out a lot of opportunities by being polarizing.
Yep.
To just get likes and comments. And if you want to believe that that's it and that's a perfect fit for you, that's awesome too, right? Because that did disqualify offers you would never take.
Yep.
I would never limit myself like that. You know, as a coach, as a business owner, as a sales rep, I'm never going to limit my potential that way. The only way that I ever will limit my potential that way is obviously if most people go to my Facebook page profile, you know, you see a lot of motivational stuff, you see business stuff, you see majority also of me talking about you know, Jesus Christ, you're like being a Christian. Someone's not going to hire me because I'm a Christian. Cool. I'm completely fine with that because I'm not in alignment with you anyway. But that's one of the very few like non-negotiables for
Yep.
me. Right. And if that's a non-negotiable for another business owner, cool. That we definitely, it wouldn't be a good working environment. So, but like your point, like it's, dude, it is a tough spot. It kind of hurts me a little bit. Um, you know, it's kind of like seeing somebody doing self-harm to themselves and wanting to stop them.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't like that.
Man, I've another story to tell, but dude, you had another appointment coming up?
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
And I can give you a couple of minutes. So it's technically a business meeting with with the other Scott. So if I'm a couple minutes late, that's totally cool. But yeah, I do need to jump. So yeah, we do need to book another
Yep.
conversation,
Yep.
like always.
Now let's take that story for part two, right? Let's take that story for part two, but it's aligned with, you know, this mindset as well, with bashing or shitting on each other. I don't understand it. You don't understand it. It's, you know, something to uncover here.
Yeah.
But yeah, leave a like for part two, right? Because
I
this is going on
agree.
YouTube. This is going on
Yeah,
YouTube. I'll tag necessity and commodity as well.
beautiful. Yeah, and I think we've got a lot to talk about when it comes down to that and the fulfillment piece of things. But I I can't wait for the next one. And again, I'm glad that we were able to do this, and I can't appreciate enough, David, for, you know, I in a short amount of time that I've known you, I really consider you as a good friend, a mentor, somebody I know I can reach out to and lean to, ask my personal opinions on, and I know you're always going to be spot on. So I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
You're
Close down the
welcome.
recording